Hello everybody, it's Dio from Firm But Fair Gaming, bringing you another video.
Welcome everybody. It's Arms Warrior time. We are going to be talking about the new Mythic Plus build for Arms Warrior. So there was a lot of changes that came out in 10.05. So let's quickly take a look at them because this is definitely impacting the build. So we have a new talent, improved Slam. So Slam has a 10% increased chance to crit and deal 30% increased crit strike damage. We have another new talent, Spiteful Serenity. Colossus Smash and Avatar's durations are doubled, but their damage bonuses are reduced by 50%. Another new talent, Strengthen Arms. Overpower has a 10% increased crit strike chance on enemies below 35% health. It generates 8 more rage. Defensive Stance is now talented by default, which gives us another talent to go through our tree. Sweeping Strikes is now baseline. Improved Sweeping Strikes now lasts 6 seconds. It used to be 5. Improved Overpower and Battlelord now also increase the damage of Dreadnought. Battlelord's chance to reset the cooldown of Mortl Strike or Cleave is increased to 35%. It was 25. Battlelord now increases the damage of Overpower by 35. It was 25. Skull Splitter now causes deep wounds to expire instantly. Tide of Blood now only causes Rend to expire instantly as Deep Wounds is built into Skull Splitter. Then we have Fatal Mark duration increased to 2 minutes instead of 1. Storm of Swords causes Whirlwind to cost 20 more rage. It used to be 30. Shuffle the positions of the nodes, basically to make some new connections and create more general builds. Valor and Victory, now only rank 1, and now provides 1% verse and reduces the cooldown of Die by the Sword by 30 seconds. So, of course, that gives us some survivability. Ignore Pain, added to the arms tree, huge for survivability. Improved Mortl Strike was removed from the tree. So then we also here have Thunderclap, damage increased by 30%, Cleave by 5, Whirlwind by 10, Bladestorm by 5, and the Rend initial damage increased by 15, not the periodic, keep that in mind. So this is to make more flexible builds, and their performance in dungeons was a little bit lacking, so that is going to help with that. Before we jump into much more, let's do a little self-promotion.
Enjoying all the videos and content we produce, don't forget to click on that subscribe button, click on that like button, and don't be afraid to share. Don't forget to click on the notification button, customize it however you want, but that way you're notified whenever we publish another video.
Okay, here we go. Let's take a look at the warrior talent tree, and just for fun, so you can do more than just listen to me talk, we have up a 18 COS using this build. So, alright, here we go into the arms tree. So, of course, we get battle stance and defensive stance, and we're going to have impending victory. So, this is just going to give us a nice self heal for some sustain and help heal her out during some heavy damage periods. War Machine, our auto attacks generate 10% more rage, and killing an enemy instantly gets 5 rage and some move speed. Rallying Cry, good raid CD or group CD for again those high damage periods or in case things become a gong show and we need more health. Then we have Fast Footwork for more move speed. Spell Reflect, so just great when we can reflect a ton of spells. Also, that 20% damage reduction from magic is huge. Leeching Strike, so some self-heal. Frothing Berserker, Mortl Strike, and Cleave have a 20% chance to immediately refund 20% of our rage. Heroic Leap, some nice mobility. Thunderclap, so blast all enemies within 8 yards for 8,000 damage and reducing their movement speed for 10 seconds. It does deal reduced damage beyond 5 targets. Then we got Furious Blows for auto attacks increase, speed is increased, so it'll give us more rage regeneration. Pain and Gain. Whenever we take damage, we heal for 4.5%. This can only happen once every 10 seconds. Stormbolt, good stun interrupt. You could spec into Intimidating Shout if you want an AoE interrupt on a 1.5 minute cooldown. Stormbolt is generally, I find, more useful. Now we also have Overwhelming Rage, so increases our rage cap by 30. Sidearm. Our auto attacks with a 20% chance to hurl weapons and deals damage to 3 targets in front of us for some extra AoE. Reinforced Plates, armor is increased by 20%. Blood and Thunder. Thunderclap costs 10 more rage and deals 10% increased damage. And if you have Rend, Thunderclap affects 5 nearby targets with Rend. So some extra AoE pumping there. And we have Barbaric Training, Slam and Whirlwind, deal 30% more damage, but now cost 10 more rage. Double time, so 2 charges. Seismic Reverberation, if Whirlwind hits 3 or more enemies, it hits them 1 additional time for 30%. Then just going to go straight down here. We have Armor to the Teeth, gain strength equal to 10% of your armor. Avatars, so we transform into a Colossus for 20 seconds, causing us to deal 20% increased damage and removing all roots and snares. And then we're also using Blade Master's Torment. So activating Avatar Bladestorm, cast the other one at a reduced effectiveness. So this will help give us basically 2 Bladestorm charges for helping 2 AoE packs. Then we're going to have Wild Strike, so haste increased by 2% in our auto attack. Crit strikes increase our auto attack speed by 20% for 10 seconds. Then we go into Thunderous Roar, so we're just going to do a roar that does AoE damage and causes targets to bleed for over 16 seconds. And then we go both into Thunderous Roar, cooldown reduced by 30 seconds, and also increase the duration of Thunderous Roar's bleed by 2 seconds and increases the damage or bleed by 15% at all times, helping give us some additional AoE there and getting it off more often. Then we also have two-handed weapon specialization, so we deal 5% more damage. And then Cruel Strike, so we just have 1 out of 2 here, where it increases our crit by 1, our crit chance by 1, and critical strike damage of execute by 5%. Moving across onto our arms tree, so of course we're going to start off with Mortl Strike. Then we go into Overpower, and then we have Martial Prowess. So Overpower increases the damage of your next Mortl Strike or Cleave by 30%, stacking twice. Then we have Die by the Sword, our defensive here, so increases our parry chance by 100%, reduces all damage taken by 30%. Then we have Improved Execute, that it no longer has a cooldown, and if your foe survives, 10% of the rage is refunded. Then we have Improved Overpower, so damage of Overpower increased by 15%. Ignore Pain, so we get a nice little shield, so fight through the pain, ignoring 50% of damage taken, up to 40k of damage prevented. And then we have Sudden Death, your attacks have a chance to make your next execute cost no rage and be usable on any target regardless of their health and deal damage as if you spent 40 rage. We have Tactician, so our abilities have we have a 2.3% chance per rage spend on abilities to reset their cooldown on Overpower. Then we go into Rend, so we're just going to cause bleeds on our targets, which is going to be utilized on Blood and Thunder underneath the Warrior Tree. Now I'm just going to keep going down here on the left side. So we have Dreadnought, so overpowers 2 charges and causes a seismic wave, dealing almost 6,000 damage to all enemies in 10 yards in a direct line. Damage is reduced beyond 5 targets. And we have Deft Experience, Mastery increased by 2%, and Tactician's chance to trigger is increased by an additional 1%. And we have Battle Lord, Overpower deals 35% increased damage, has a 35% chance to reset the cooldown of Mortl Strike and Cleave and reduce their cost by 10. And then we have Bloodletting, which is basically all our wounds last, our bleed effects last longer and have a 5% increased chance to crit, giving us more damage from that. Going down the middle here, Colossus Smash. Smashes the enemy armor, dealing physical damage, increases the damage we deal to them for 30% for 10 seconds. Then we go into Anger Management. Every 20 rage we spend reduces remaining cooldown on Warbreaker and Bladestorm by 1 second. Then we have In for the Kill. Warbreaker increases our haste by 10% or 20 if any target is below 35 and it lasts 10 seconds. We have actual Warbreaker, which replaces Colossus Smash. Smash the ground and shatter the armor of all enemies within 8 yards. Dealing physical damage increases the damage we deal by 30% for 10 seconds to those targets. Then we have Valor and Victory, which increases our verse and reduces the cooldown of Die by the Sword by 30 seconds, thus making it a 1.5-minute cooldown. Then we have Bladestorm, so we spin around to deal AoE damage. Then we go into Hurricane, so while we're Bladestorming every 0.8 seconds, we gain movement speed and strength, stacking up to 6 times. And then Merciless Bone Grinder is after we Bladestorm After it ends, Whirlwind and Cleave deal 50% increased damage for 9 seconds. Then on the right side, we go down with Impale, so damaging critical strikes of your abilities deal an additional 10% damage. We have Strength of Arms, so overpowers a 10% increased crit strike chance and deals 10% increased crit strike damage on enemies below 35%, and it generates 8 rage. And then we have Cleave, so strike all enemies in front of us. Cleave will consume our Overpower effect to deal increased damage, and it deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets. Storm of Swords, Whirlwind costs 20 more rage and has a 14-second cooldown, but now deals 175% more damage. And then we have Reaping Swing, so cooldown of Cleave reduced by 3 seconds. And then from utilizing the middle here, we get to go over into Sharpened Blades, which are Mortl Strike, Cleave, and Execute critical strike damage is increased by 10%, and your Execute has a 5% increased critical strike hit chance. And then Executioner's Precision, Execute causes the target to take 35% more damage from our next 2 Mortl Strikes. From your next Mortl Strike, stacking up to 2 times. One thing I wanted to go into before doing the priority rotation is the stat priority for this. So when we were playing Fury, we were very much into Mastery and Haste. And in this build for arms, instead, we want to be Critical Strike and Haste. A little bit of Haste before crit, but pretty much a one-to-one relationship. Or as close to as you can manage between the 2 different stats there. So then Mastery is our third and Verse is our last. So for me, when I sim on this build, I am only simming at 47,000 on single target and then 72,000 on AoE, but my gear is heavily geared towards Fury. So I will sim higher on Fury, and my damage numbers are a little bit lower than what they should be. But again, this is because my gear is geared towards Fury, so I did want to just throw that out there, that my numbers may not be as high as they should be because I am stacked in stats into the wrong categories just because primarily I do play Fury. That being said, even though I did have the wrong stats when I did that 18 court, the damage was still there. It was significant. It was good. It was there. It is lower than my Fury output, but again, that's because I play Fury, so my gear is geared towards Fury. And I can easily see where if I had the crit that I needed, because that's where I'm missing, because of course I have like 4,000 Mastery instead of crit, that oh, let me just, I believe, yeah, I got the video hiding my guys. Let me just move that over. Because if we go to my stats, I only have 2,000 crit, but I have like 3,500 Mastery. So if I was to actually switch that up and have those reversed, my crit would be actually insane. So in that court, I finished off doing 60 to almost 63,000. With that crit, I would easily say that I would probably be closer to 70 K at the end of that dungeon. So as a parse percentage for completing that 18, I believe, how about I just throw this over here? So this was the end result of it. So I still had an 86 parse there, pulling 45K in Warcraft logs, so easily, and I think my active was 66. If I had the proper crit, I would say that I would have been low 70s and would have had a much higher parse. So anyways, I just wanted to get that out of the way because I felt it was quite relevant. If people have seen the Fury videos and seen my damage output and comparing it to this, I did want to call out the difference that happens as a result of the fact that I have Mastery instead of crit. Okay, for our AoE rotation, so we are going to unopen, charge, pop, our Warbreaker, then Thunderclap to put Rend on everything. Then we're going to go our Thunderous Roar and Avatar macro, so we get both those cast up at once, as well as that is going to send us into a Bladestorm proc, which we are then going to follow up with actual Bladestorm and then Sweeping Strikes and then go into our Sustain Rotation. So the Sustain Rotation is going to be Warbreaker as available, Sweeping Strikes as available, and then we're going to, this might be a little bit weird, we're going to be spending Ignore Pain, like casting that. It's off the GCD with our excess rage because Ignore Pain has a chance to reset some of our abilities, so we want to do that. And then we're going to Cleave on proc, Thunderclap every 21 seconds to refresh Rend, Whirlwind, Execute, Mortl Strike, and Overpower. And then, like I said, we're going to have Ignore Pain, spending our excess rage to reset abilities. So in my priority rotation, you're going to see Ignore Pain come up. That is why. Okay, so let's see it in action. So I'm going to start with my puzzle box. Charge in, also smash into our Thunderclap, and into our Avatar, into our other Bladestorm. Now we're just going to go into our Sustain, Sweeping Strikes, Whirlwind. Okay, now it's just a bunch of Cleave, Overpower, just bouncing back and forth between these, and then we're spending our excess rage when we have a chance, and we're going to smash. And here we go. So this is basically all it is for the next little while. It's just rotating these in and out, throwing in our Ignore Pains as we have them, then just spending our rage as it comes up and as our abilities proc. And this is what it looks like. So starting to fall down a little bit as our avatar and whatnot has come off, but this is basically it. Okay, that's enough of that. And then we are back around. So about 80k there. I know when I do Fury I'm probably around 90 something, but as I already mentioned, I am not as heavily stacked into crit as I am supposed to be. But that's the gist of it. That's what you do. You go through the rotation like that, throwing in our Ignore Pains to reset abilities, and then once our opener is done, then we're just going through on procs, Cleave, Whirlwind, Execute, Mortl Strike, Overpower on procs. That's what we're doing. And then we're utilizing Warbreaker, Sweeping Strikes whenever they come up. Okay, for our single target, so we're going to charge, then we're going to Warbreaker, Rend, Thunderous Roar, and Avatar. Then we're going to Bladestorm. Then for sustain, we're going to Warbreaker as available, Rend every 21 seconds, Execute, Overpower, Mortl Strike, Slam, and Whirlwind as a last resort. Also, as we did with our AoE, when we have excess rage, we're going to be throwing out Ignore Pains as a chance to reset our cooldown so we get more DPS. Okay, so here we go. Puzzle box, charge. All this fun stuff. So there's one. And into the other one. So we had an execute proc there, which is what delayed our Bladestorm, but that is actually not a bad thing. Execute, more damage. So there's our Rend, Whirlwind. Now we're just into Overpowers, Cleaves, Mortl Strikes, and Ignore Pain spam to try to reset abilities, and now it's just based off procs. Similar to what it was like for our AoE, we are just, as things come up, we are going to press the button and hit them. And then keep our Rend up. And that is what it looks like. So at the moment, we are at about 50k there. And then there is a little bit of downtime because I don't have as much haste, again, because I'm more mastery due to Fury. But so that is playing a bit of a factor where I had a little bit of a lull there. And this is basically it. So there we are. We dropped down to about 47. But again, if I had proper crit, we'd still be in the 50s. But that is what it looks like. So this brings us to the end of the video. I hope you found this information helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. I'll be happy to answer those. I personally am going to spend a little bit more time playing arms in this second part of Season 1. The damage output was actually really good and fun, and I can see the definite potential if I actually had more crit, so I'm going to start definitely keeping the crit gear. I just haven't had that much so far, and give this another go. Well, obviously I'm going to keep playing it because it was fun. And with more crit, my damage is just going to keep going up. It is exciting. It's fun to play. I do recommend it. So yeah, anyways, if you have any questions or comments, please let me know below. Be happy to answer those. As always, we appreciate any likes, shares, and subscribes, so please click those buttons. And of course, you can come find me on Twitch. It will be in the description below. Come hang out, ask some more questions, and be happy to answer those, and also happy to run keys. Anyways, hope you guys are enjoying Dragonflight 10.0.5, and I hope to see you in the next video.